And now, live from the iAcquire offices in New York City, it's Lunch Break with Michael King.
Welcome back to Lunch Break, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are joined with, or by, I don't even know, with Ron Garrett, Client Development Executive for Distilled, New York. Awesome guy, fantastic friend. Happy to have you today.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you for having me over.
We also have our Director of Client Strategy, Britton Bright, as well. Hey. So Ron, how are things?
Things are good, man. Things are good. I just got back from a 2-week stint in on the West Coast, so I was over there in San Francisco at a startup conference, which was super cool. Got to meet a bunch of VCs, angels, incredible entrepreneurs that sold their companies, so that was fun. And then I went up to Seattle for a week, hung out with Rand and Geraldine for a little bit, taped a whiteboard Friday, and then hung out with my team. So it was a good time.
So we were just out there as well, and Britton taped her first whiteboard Friday.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Was that your first one?
Yeah,
You too,
I was so nervous.
What'd you do it on?
So it's how to position your business and brand for the future of SEO. So it's more or less a checklist for business owners on how you can utilize your resources and assets to create self-awareness, and how once you have an understanding of your strategy and the direction that you're taking your company and how you're going to position your brand, how you can communicate around that stuff. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's funny. You did a checklist because she did a checklist.
I also did a checklist. It was overcoming.
It's like, check the whiteboard. Wait, check the whiteboard.
That's funny. So we have questions for you, but I kind of want to immortalize your Microsoft story. Would you feel comfortable telling that?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. So when Mike and I first met, we'd go out for drinks and hang out, and he's like, so what's your story? Like, what's your background? And to be honest with you, like when I started my career, you know, in my early 20s, I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew that as long as I could garner the trust of the people that I worked for and figured everything else out, that I would be successful. And so one of my first jobs was at a IT consulting company as an engineer. And, you know, I always loved tinkering with computers growing up and, you know, building things and figuring out what it looked like. But all of a sudden when you're thrust into a server room with like 40 different racks and you're managing 40 clients 24/7, it's a completely different ballgame. You're no longer tinkering. They expect uptime. They expect quality of service. They expect all of these things. And so I quickly figured out, because there were many things that I did not know, that we were Microsoft Gold certified partner. And pretty much what this means is that you can call in Microsoft with this partnership program, and as long as you meet a specific criteria, which is an outrageous criteria, but as long as you meet that criteria, they're willing to put any engineer on staff on their support on the case 24/7 until it gets solved. They'll bring anybody in. And so I just figured out how to route myself through that. So no matter what problem I was running into, I would just route myself through that customer support, and then I'd say, hey, this is my first time tackling this problem. I'd love to be able to watch you remotely, and then if you could send me a log afterwards, that'd be great. And so that was literally my study material. While I was fixing clients and taking care of everybody, that was also what I'd go home and study at night, which is how to solve these problems. So it's just being resourceful and trying to figure these things out. And, you know, thankfully, you know, over the years, I've picked up more tools and tactics on how to be successful than just winging it. Yeah, it's been a fun ride. So.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's one of my favorite stories that I know of from you. So that's a good lead-in. I mean, how'd you go from, you know, faking it till you made it to getting into SEO and being an awesome sales guy? Yeah,
definitely. So for me, I've always tried to surround myself with really smart people smarter than myself. Over here.
I'll take that.
And,
no,
and the good thing about that is that, you know, I've always tried to be open to my weaknesses and my flaws, and I've always tried to, you know, really put myself out there, you know, take risks, try to figure things out. And I found when you surround yourself with really smart people that are willing to give you candid feedback and really want to see you succeed, and you're always willing to put yourself out there on a limb to try stuff out, you're gonna succeed more oftentimes than not. And so when I was at that IT consulting company, I realized very quickly that there were more technical people than myself, and I would never achieve the levels at which they had achieved. So I was like, I can simply move into account management and sales, make a ton more money, and just explain really complex solutions to people that don't care about them.
Boom.
They just want to know. They just want to know who are you? What do you bring into my attention? Can you get me what I want? Can I trust you? And when does that stop? And as long as I can walk into a boardroom and smooth them and let them know that, hey, look, I'm going to take good care of them, and they have a vote of confidence, and that I can actually deliver, that's all that they cared about. And so that really kind of segued my time in sales. And then for me, I wanted to be able to get out of Vegas and move into the internet. I'd worked in infrastructure for quite some time, and I wanted to work in the web. And so when I heard that Distilled was opening up an office in New York, I looked at it as a great opportunity, not just to sell and be able to get clients, but I've always been extremely passionate about like building great companies, building infrastructure, scaling businesses, hiring the best people, training, shaping the culture of the company. So I figured that was an amazing opportunity for me to be able to do that. And so New York has been my playground ever since I've been here, just trying to get the coolest clients, trying to get the coolest consultants to work with us, and trying to make sure that it stays fun and people find purpose in what they do. So
you have the best answers.
I don't know, man. I watched Evan's video that you guys shot, and he was much more funny than I am. So we talked about like Jedis and shit like that.
But your answers are very informative.
Yeah.
You're like very exhaustive.
Yeah.
I mean, Britton usually has tons to say. She hasn't even had anything to add yet.
I don't need to.
You're like, yep. Chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the challenges you face when selling SEO to people, and what are some of the common questions that come up?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the biggest challenges that I realized, because when I first came into SEO, right, I didn't even know what SEO was. Like I knew more than the average person, but which is oftentimes good enough. But I really wanted to be well versed in SEO, and not just what SEO means today, but what SEO is going to mean tomorrow, and what key stakeholders they integrate with, what are their considerations, how do they think about successful SEO. And so the way that I look at SEO today is it's an ongoing conversation that you're having, both internally, testing things out, seeing what works with your clients, seeing what that means for them, and figuring out how we tie this back to their business objectives. So I would say that one of the biggest challenges that I've had is making sure that we allot enough time for education in the process, because at the end of the day, the clients, they understand their business, and they understand their goals, and they understand that they have a set of resources that they can work from, but they don't know how to orchestrate that. And so coming in as an educator, also coming in with an end goal in mind and being able to tie everything together oftentimes proves to be really valuable. And I think if you can execute that properly, people end up seeing the value and want to continue to invest in it. So.
Wouldn't you also say that if you can execute that without being condescending or just making people feel like you're on their level and you understand where they're coming from, and you're not they're not stupid, or they're not, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think that's a big piece of it. It's just speaking their language and educating them in a way that's inclusive.
Exactly.
So what are some of the biggest objections you hear to spending money on SEO?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think, when I come into companies, right, I put myself in their shoes first and foremost. And I say to myself, you know what, I think a lot of times when people are looking to invest in SEO, because they don't understand what it is or what it takes to be successful, they're oftentimes in over their head, right? And so when it comes to objections, when it comes to, hey, look, I'm going to need a certain amount of money, I'm going to need a certain amount of resources internally, I'm going to need a certain amount of time, and oh, by the way, not provided is not going to allow us to tell you a lot of things about how we're going to create ROI for your business in the short term. Like our goal is to help you build up assets internally to create great content, to create a better indexed website, to build a brand. And I think those things tend to be less tangible for a lot of brands. So they want to see ROI. So it's trying to bridge the gap between very ROI driven people and people that are looking to build great businesses online, and figuring out how you can create metrics around that to get enough buy-in to do what it is that you need to do without them dropping off. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, and it's tough to invest in something where you don't know when you're going to get the end result that you're looking for. So
sure, indeed. So we got to take a break real quick, and we will be back after these messages with Ron Garrett. we're back with Ron Garrett from Distilled. And Britton had to skedaddle, so we brought in Tom Harari, our SEO manager. So I just want to jump back into these questions because Ron was giving such really insightful responses. So, given the recent shakeups and algo changes over the last year or so, how has your approach to selling changed?
Yeah, I think oftentimes when clients come to me and they're struggling because of the types of investments that they made into their digital assets, and it's put them in a position where it's they're not getting as much traffic as they used to, and they're trying to figure out what that looks like. The first thing that I try to do is be somewhat understanding, and just listen really intently, and try to understand where they're coming from, and try to get a sense of, hey, look, give me some clear examples over the past 12 months of how you guys have invested into your digital presence. Like, what does that look like? Because if you ask too pointed questions, they'll never give you the information that you need to understand like what actually took place.
Right.
But when you try to unpack it with them and say, hey, look, I'm just trying to understand and align myself with you, so that way I can understand what you've been through, right? So that way I can start that education process and figure out where it is that we're going, right? And ultimately, one of the things that I try to look out for when clients come to me with, oh, I got hit and I lost 70% of my traffic, is that oftentimes in that education process, if I've identified that they're just investing for the now rather than they're investing for the future of their brand and their business, then that is the project, right? Rather than just going and doing the work, like shifting their mindset is the first project.
Right.
And so I'll spend as much time being very consultative in the pre-sales process with them to make sure that they're at a point to understand how we're going to do this successfully moving forward, what our methodology is to do that, and how we can hook into their organization to help them get there. And if they can't get to that point, I'll oftentimes, say, hey, it's probably not a great fit, or if there's somebody else that specializes in being able to help people at that spot in their business, I'll try to get them over to those people. So
that's awesome. So I saw a short video that you did on, there's like a series of Distilled shorts you guys did, and your tip was like active listening. And it seems like you approach this from a standpoint of developing empathy for this prospect first, and really getting an understanding of what it is they're looking to do and how you can help, rather than just like powering them through some sort of like predefined sales pitch.
Exactly. Because I know what it's like being a business owner and struggling and trying to figure things out. Right? There's no one right answer to doing business, and it's really tough. And there's a lot of shady characters out there. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to promote their own agenda and try to push their goods on you. And the quicker that I can show them that I'm not that person, and that I have their best interests at heart, and that I took the time to deeply understand where they're coming from, the more buy-in that I'm going to have to do all the things that are necessary to make them successful. So when I say active listening, it's exactly what you said. It's listening from a very empathetic standpoint, really trying to understand what are the things that they truly value, not what are the things that they say they value, not what are the things that they say they're investing into, but like what's really going on here. I guess it's like the SEO whisperer. Like I'm like an SEO psychologist, so
the SEO whisperer. That's hot. Okay, so as a successful SEO salesperson, how much do you believe that an SEO salesperson needs to understand about SEO?
Yep. So, at least from my experience, like I don't think that the salesperson needs to know as much as the consultant when it comes to being able to actually go and execute the work. I think that it's important for every salesperson to have access to light tools that will help them quickly get access to information that can be really valuable in the pre-sales process. So I know that Tom and a couple other people wrote a post on quick JavaScript applets that you can have in your browser. So there's two tools. So I'll use those, and I'll use Reportive in my Gmail. So what Reportive does is once I have their email address, I can hover over their email address and see all the social networks and all the blogs that's associated with their with that. And so I'll take a look at their LinkedIn profile. I'll take a look at their blog. I'll try to get as much of a sense of who this individual is, the things that they're interested in, the things that they do, and then from an SEO perspective, I'll start opening up Open Site Explorer, trying to take a look. What is the domain authority? Like, have they have they been around for a long time? I'll do a site query against their domain to see how many pages are being indexed by Google, and then I'll use that information in that first conversation with the person to get a sense of, are these things matching up? Is what the person telling me matching up with what I'm seeing here?
Sure.
And so I think being able to have those kind of quick access tools can be really valuable in making sure that you're all staying on track and they're not feeding you something that isn't necessarily representative of the project that you're going to be doing. But I don't think that you have to be an expert by any point. So
no, I definitely agree with your approach, because you're diving in enough that you understand the background of the client or prospect, and you're savvy enough that like you get what's going on, and you're not really depending on the consultant too much. Like you're building the picture or reverse engineering the picture yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's actually really
because there's two scenarios that I'm trying to avoid in that situation. Number one, I never want to go into a meeting with somebody and them realizing that I'm incompetent, right? Because then the deal's done. Like they want to deal with smart people. In fact, oftentimes engineers make the best, or highly technical SEOs or whoever it is, make the best salespeople. So if I can at least talk competently enough to be able to have those conversations and sit at that table, that's really important. The second thing that I'm trying to avoid is selling a project that's not in line with what the project actually is, because then I just piss off all the consultants and then they don't want to do the work, and then I've lost all rapport and track record with them. So those are the two major things that I'm trying to avoid by being savvy, having access to these tools, and making sure that I'm doing my due diligence.
So Tom, as somebody who is, typically interfaces with a Ron type person, what would you make of that? Like, how would you, what would you expect to get out of his sale? Basically?
Yes, I think exactly what he just said is spot on. The consultants want to make sure that they're getting a project that was sold correctly, that the expectations were set correctly, so that you know that you're not going to be putting in time and effort, and ultimately you're going to fail regardless because the expectations weren't set at that sales level.
So I think I already know the answer to this, but this question I think is pretty much a hot topic.
Yeah.
What's your take on picking the right clients and then firing the clients that prove to be a bad fit?
Yeah, so I'm very opinionated when it comes to this, but I'm going to preface this by saying it's up to the company that's selling the project, right? Because I think first and foremost you have to say, hey, who are we as a company, right? What is our mission, right? What are our values, right? What did we sell our consultants on what it is that we're doing, like going back to that mission and saying, hey, look, who are the clients that are going to get us closer to our mission, that adhere to the type of values that we have to make sure that it's a good cultural fit, and that are open to doing business, right? I think we don't necessarily need the clients to be super savvy. We don't necessarily need the clients to have a ton of assets to be able to work with them. We just want them to be open. And open to understanding, open to learning, open to figuring these things out, and that we have an opportunity to get their buy-in and trust, which is really important in being successful. Where we find clients not being as open or saying that they're open, but their actions are not as open, we'll try to go back to the education and say, hey, look, like these are things that are hindering us from being successful in this project. This is where we're going as a company. This is the company that we're trying to build. This is a very give and take relationship. I understand that you're paying us money for a service and for a need that you're trying to fulfill, but ultimately if it's not good for the both of us, if we're both not growing in the direction that we need to with this, like let's figure out an alternative solution, whether that's sending them to another company that's more in line with what they're trying to do. The term that I use internally is client cycling, because I think it's important, depending on the rate at which you scale your business, you need to be honest with yourself. Does this client fall in line with where we're at today as a company and where we're going? If not, you need to have somebody that feels comfortable having that conversation with the client and saying, hey, look, we've had a great relationship up until this point. This is not me kicking you to the curb as a client. This is more or less me coming to the table with you because I respect you and saying, how do we think about this moving forward? Like, let's discuss this together. And I think having access to C-level people that can have those types of conversations can be really valuable as well.
I think you said that way more eloquently than I ever could have. I would just be like, yo, fire those guys.
Done. Out.
So Ron,
yeah,
thanks for coming by.
Of course, thanks guys.
It's been awesome.
Thanks, man.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about client cycling. Maybe we can get a blog post out of you somehow.
Maybe, yeah. Let's work on it.
Anyway, man.
Yeah, pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. Until next time.